I thought I was going a bit mad, thinking he was controlling, abusive, that it was just in my head. Mum said it was hormones. Because how could a nice boy like that, who was my age, be like that? He was nice. Like me, he was a complier. But unlike me, he was an extrovert. Or, well, more extroverted. Actually, I think he was just a charmer. Charmer makes him sound like he was charming. He could turn it on when he needed to. Later, I found out that people at school, they thought he was a bit strange. They just about tolerated him. That's why people, friends and friends of friends, they were surprised when we started going out. He made it out like they hated him. Said they weren't really my mates. Then soon it was my male friends, even teachers that were male. He said they all wanted to sleep with me, and it was my fault because I was a flirt. For a while, I did my best, my absolute best, to appease him, shut him up. I stopped seeing my friends, stopped going to parties, even stopped going to after-school clubs run by male teachers. But it wasn't enough. I could have married him. It wouldn't have proved anything. So he started reading my messages. At the time, I made excuses. I didn't want to believe he was not well. And I did love him. I wanted it to work. So when my friends asked how things were, I said he was depressed, insecure. I wasn't lying. And when they asked me how I was, they knew the answer. Because you could see it. The anxiety sucking the life from me, my body. But by that point, I had stopped eating. I hadn't really noticed. I was in denial that there was something wrong with him, our relationship. I had complied. I had followed the rules. I was trying my best. My mum, she always said she was proud to have a daughter who did so. That's the issue. Girls feel a pressure to comply even when we don't want to. We're taught it is good and it is right to please those around us, please men. God forbid we don't. Because if we don't, then whatever punishment, shame we feel, we inflicted it upon ourselves. Then Advance came into school. They did a talk about abusive relationships, gave names to all the things I had been experiencing. Gaslighting, controlling behavior, love bombing. They gave me permission to think of myself before trying to please anyone else, especially a boy. And so I did. I spoke to a teacher. She referred me to advanced services. I have a key worker now. We're talking about healthy relationships, what they look like. And weirdly, it's not about complying. It's about me making the rules.
I low-key wanted her out of my life completely. And when she was around, she would come with all of her friends. She brought the same group every time. And this one, Sharon, her girlfriend, she ended up letting me live with her. She knew I hated mum, and at first I thought it was a mother and daughter thing. But she ended up being my first. I never imagined that my first would be someone who was old enough to be my mother. But she gave me a roof over my head. And, you know, like, it was fun. I couldn't leave. There was free drink, free weed. And she'd have parties and she'd invite all of her mates round. And they were cool at first. And then they said I was like having a daughter, which made me sick because they didn't treat me like I was one. I got back into lifting again. I don't know why. I think I just thought that it was kind of like a way out for me, that it would get me out of this whole situation. But it wasn't that easy. They just put me on probation, and this officer that I had, he said that I was a layabout, that I was a criminal, and it made me angry. And I didn't understand why until I met Lucy from Advance. She just spoke to me like I was human, and it was different. She was my key worker in it. Basically, we worked out that it was because people were hurting me. It was because crimes were being done to me. Yeah, I never thought about it like that. And I feel bad. She was so nice to me, like, when we first met. Like, she said that I could always call for help. But I just go to my probation hours and I wouldn't speak. And she'd phone me every day. And I'd just get anxious. It was because I was still living with Sharon. And then one night, she had one of her parties and they were getting proper rowdy. They were getting really high on something stronger, and they wanted me to be on their level. And I don't know why, but I said no. Maybe because I felt like I had another option. Lucy. And I called her and I told her that I needed to get out. And she got me out. She put me in one of these shared accommodations, and she got me into like one of these groups to help with drinking and stuff. And we talk a lot. But like, we talk about what I'm going to do when I leave probation. And we've even spoken about jobs. She's proper got me sorted, even like college and stuff. And I don't know, maybe I'll get a job, which would be bare funny because it would mean I would be working at a till, looking out for people lifting.
My friends were girls, growing up. It was annoying because it didn't feel like we were made of the same stuff, and I wasn't outcasted for it. I just found it harder for people to like me. Didn't help my mum brought it up every day. How she thought she had given birth to a daughter. And I wasn't that. But I wasn't a son either. I knew it. Girls at school knew it. Mum kept commenting. I was a disappointment. Never got a boyfriend. At her worst, that I was unlovable. So I kept pushing to be a girl. Grew my hair out, wore joggers around my hips and tops that were 2 sizes too small, spoke to boys, drank to get through social situations that made me want to gouge my eyeballs out. And girls started warming to me. Mum loved it. Finally, she had a daughter. So the drinking continued and continued. Pushed myself to parties, onto men, trying to sustain this, basically this lie that kept me safe. From what I don't know. Loneliness. Complete self-hatred. And when I went too far, drank too much, the mask slipped, had a crying fit, I'd hurt myself, which became not even sad, just numbing. But I kept going. Until Advance stepped in by chance. They did a talk at my uni, spelled a few things out, mostly what abuse was. Didn't have to be violent. Could in fact be your mum telling you that you didn't deserve to be loved. And once I heard someone say that out loud, it made me wonder if this whole time wasn't really my fault. So I self-referred to Advance. After a month, I got a meeting and a key worker, Susie. She got me on a wait list for therapy, referred me to a couple of LGBTQ charities, even found me a peer mentor, someone who's also non-binary, which was, nice. Really nice. To look at someone, see something of yourself reflected back, and finally know that you were normal, liked, even loved.
Your body isn't your own after a baby. Your tits, your head, your heat, it's all theirs. I didn't mind it at first. It was nice to have an excuse to not have to give it to my boyfriend. Not in that way, just my attention, my love, I suppose. It's just he can be a lot. He's always talking, prodding, taking. And like he's a good dad. Well, he's all right. He provides for us. I don't dislike him. I love him. But if I had the choice, I would still live with Mum. Mum got sick of me at home, moping about, arguing with the boyfriend constantly. Father of my child now. Mad. And things between me and Mum got bad. She couldn't handle me, the drama. So I moved in with him, and he thought it would help, and it did for a bit. Well, a week. And then we started bickering. He started just being stupid, losing his head. He still takes a lot from me. A lot of my energy, a lot of my head. My body began to get weak from it. And then I found out I was pregnant. And somehow it made him and me, but mostly him, worse. I got so tired. Felt constantly limp. I remember it was about a week after I found out I was pregnant. We went to Camber Sands. It was super hot, like feverishly humid hot. And you couldn't move with all the umbrellas and screaming children. And I put my feet in the sea and everything went quiet. And I looked up and I realised the horizon, everything looked like it deflated. I tried to call Mum when we got home. Beck had to come and pick me up, but she never answered. And I took that as a sign that day to just give up. I do wonder what would have happened if she had. You know, if my life would be different. Or his life, my son's. If someone had just stepped in. She doesn't contact me anymore. I told her not to because, well, he hates her. And if I'm honest, I miss her. And I thought about just ringing her or just turning up at the house. But I just can't be bothered. I just don't have the energy for him to take any more of my head. My body. I just don't think I've got any more of it to give.
I don't really know where to begin. Like, it's not easy admitting these things. Things with my dad weren't right. Normal. Nobody has like the perfect relationship with their family. I get that. But not everybody is hurt by them in the way I was. I realized that other girls got more than me. Like, they were living life because their parents were more normal than mine. They got to go out at weekends and parties, drinking. They got to go Westfield. They got to go around each other's. And nobody could come mine. No way. Because my place was so quiet. We weren't allowed to make noise. We were all bare scared of my dad because he was difficult. So we all spoke in small voices, or not at all. And as I got older, I realized just how loud my voice actually was at school. And I discovered I liked it. Oh, I loved it. Then when I got home, I shrunk. I stopped myself from being, well, I suppose, my real self, loud. So I started shouting, screaming. If my dad didn't like it, I would just walk out the house. So he lashed out. Like, at one point, he just kept doing it every day, and I just took it because I didn't really have a choice. And then there was this one time where he went a bit too far, and I had to go to hospital. It was near Eid, and it was a hot day in spring, and I wasn't wearing much. He said
I was haram. I was sinful. No daughter of mine. And I was bringing shame to his family. His family. I wasn't his. I wasn't his property. I told him that. He didn't like it. So he broke my rib and nearly my jaw. When I got home from the hospital, I didn't speak. At home, at school, not even with friends. They didn't know what to say. I think they knew, but didn't know how to ask me. And I tried to tell them, but it was just too embarrassing. Like telling them that my dad had put me in hospital. Nah, it was just too deep. So I just did my best to pretend I was fine, even though my whole body was shaking and everywhere inside me felt like it was in pain, like my stomach, my chest. And I was like, when would it go back to normal? My life. It never had been normal, had it? And that wasn't normal. So I thought about telling someone. But I didn't see the point because I knew that I was just not going to say anything. Like my brain didn't let me. It was failing me anyway, like all the time. Would it let me sleep? Sometimes would stop me from breathing, like panic attacks. So I stopped seeing the social worker because of that and because she was bare annoying. And then eventually, like a few months later, this woman shows up. Her name was Lisa from Advance. Don't get me wrong, she was bare annoying too at first, but I knew she was cool. I didn't say much the first 2 times I saw her, and I thought she'll give up in the way that I had kind of given up on myself because I didn't speak. But she didn't. She just kept coming, and I thought maybe I wasn't fine. Like nowhere near fine. Maybe she could help. And it wasn't until like the 3rd time I saw her, I felt like there was an earthquake inside of me and my brain was going to explode. And I just cried and cried and cried. And she listened for like 2 hours. She told me that my dad had assaulted me and that wasn't normal, but I didn't have to press charges. She told me that I was probably having panic attacks because of it. And so she put me in with a doctor. Came with me to the appointment even. Now I am on the waiting list for therapy. In the meantime, I get to see Lisa once a week. And she asks me how I am, how are things with dad. And I tell her, yeah, they're getting better. He lets me go to the women's centre because it's supervised. But I like it because I get to meet other girls like me. And we get to talk about stuff that I don't tell my schoolmates about. And I can call Lisa and them anytime.
Young women and girls tell us that they start their relationships, both intimate and sexual, from the age of 12. They tell us that they feel unsafe often in their relationships, that they feel unsafe at home because of domestic abuse and violence. 1 in 5 young women and girls will experience abuse in their lifetime by the age of 25, and that's in double the rates that adult women will over 25. Policymakers need to ensure that safe spaces like Advance's Women's Centres, programs like Advance's Maya services, with advocates that are able to provide those trusted relationships in the communities for every young woman and girl exist, so that they are able to build a better and safer future in healthy relationships, both in their own intimate relationships and at home.
Working at Advance, I support young women and girls who have been affected by domestic abuse and other forms of gender-based violence, advocating on their behalf for complicated things such as getting injunctions, housing, and making referrals to counselling agencies. I deliver workshops on healthy relationships, domestic abuse and the different types, alongside providing emotional support. Lots of young women go unsupported when they experience abuse, which can often lead to more trauma and harm. However, Advance support young women and girls by walking alongside them on their journey to recovery.